So hello everybody, hello from Malaga, Ibancar headquarter office. Thank you for your hospitality that it's possible for me to visit you here. On my side, Alexander Melis, CEO of the platform. I guess everybody who watches the video, or at least most of you will already know him. So we skip the introduction because it's a catch-up interview. So we did already one some years ago in your first office in Fuengirola.
Yep.
Then I think 2 years ago in the other office in Fuengirola.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you moved to Malaga to a bigger office. It was very exciting for me to see it. We didn't record the office tour right now, but we will do later. But it's very exciting to see how everything is operating. And this is why I want to mention it also in the intro on the camera.
Yep.
Because I saw in the other room that they are like checking all the car pictures and talking to the customers and so on. So it's really exciting to get this feeling of the real business. But however, I would suggest we dive straight into the latest Ibancar news and topics we could cover.
Sure.
Very excited about the exchange. You know, this is very important for me as a private investor because then I get the feeling of the investment and feel much better. And so far, I can also mention at the beginning of this interview something positive. I feel very good with the investments in Ibancar because I've never had any issues so far. And if there was an issue, it was a system error of the platform and not from you.
As we saw this morning, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Or it's also a problem of the platform in general. Maybe we'll also talk about that when we mention some P2P platform risks. However, first question. It's been a while since our last interview. Could you tell us about significant milestones or achievements that Ibancar has accomplished meanwhile? Why did you change the headquarter office in Spain again? And how is business going in general, maybe at the moment in Spain?
Well, the reason for changing the office is simply because we keep growing faster than we expect. We try to manage our cash very carefully, so we don't end up. I mean, maybe so you should say we should rent 1,000 square meters and then fill it up. But we've been growing in steps, and now we're in Malaga. We have 42 people working in this office. We needed more space, and we will have to move again probably early next year. And Malaga is good because there's just more office space available, and most of the team live here. Milestones, I think the most significant is that we've continued to grow in a very stable way and maintain the credit quality. You know, it's easy to lend money, and it's very hard to get it back. So credit quality is a key component of growth. There's no point in growing if the credit quality goes down. So I think that's the main milestone. Growing at a pace that is consistent with quality.
So as I understand it, you manage this still very, very good because you have a low default rate because of your kind of business system also with the car as a pledge, which works probably fine for you.
The two things that make it work, one is obviously the collateral, the fact that there is an asset behind the loan. And the other aspect is we have learned how to manage the borrowers who don't want to pay and use that collateral as leverage without necessarily recovering the car, because we don't want cars. We're not a car business. So you need to have a solid business model, solid legal model, solid processes, and then use to apply that model and those processes in a way that avoids logistics and car recoveries as much as possible.
Okay, so maybe let's proceed to the next question. But first I want to comment on the new office again. So I will have to make another new office tour next year, I guess.
Probably.
But I'm happy that it's still in Malaga, as I now meanwhile live very close to the headquarters in Estepona. So it's not such a big issue to come here. However, I would like to ask you about customer experience, because you told us right now the collection of the money is a very important part of the business, but also I think the customer experience, because you want to have them maybe again as a good customer. So you have been making waves in the industry with the innovative approach, but how has your team been working towards staying ahead of the competition, and also for the customer experience that this is very positive still?
So yeah, service is important, but I think the key to success in lending is technology. I mean, we have 41 people now, but the loan book has been multiplied by 4, and the number of colleagues that we have is only multiplied by 2. So it's important to automate, to use technology. That keeps getting easier. You know, smartphones keep getting faster, chatbots keep getting smarter. Now you have, you know, AI-driven chatbots. So there's a lot of automation that becomes possible. Risk management is increasingly automated. You know, decision making is automated, because you don't want to end up having 1,000 people on the payroll. The goal is to be profitable. So to be profitable, we have to leverage technology. And with regards to competition, so we don't really look too much at the competition. The competition for us is more. There's no real competition in what we do, but there's competition in payday lending. So people who use short-term high-cost credit, 300 euros, 500 euros on a 1-month rolling contract. That's the market we really want to compete with. We want to offer those people larger loans for longer periods at a lower cost. And I think we're there already, because the reason people use that is because it's quick, it's easy, you can do it from a phone in a few minutes, and Ibancar is now offering loans in 2 hours.
So
and not 300 euros, up to 6,000 euros, and not at 1,000% per year. So I think we're being successful in that, and there's still a lot of room to grow.
As I understand it, there is, for example, a competition from Iveeta with Wando Finance Group. I will visit them. Wando Finance, they offer payday loans in Spain. I will visit them in January in the loan office in Madrid. Because they are financing through Swapper, so they are connected to Swapper platform. Yeah. You know Swapper because they also considered financing there, I think, funding there. But I would like to ask you, because I don't understand it, maybe we can directly move to that question. I don't understand, how does it work? You never get like the documents of the car in physical way. You only have like a digital document of the car.
Yeah.
In case, just to get to know, to understand it, in case you have to put the car on auction as a last consequence. How can you do it if you don't have the car and you also don't have the documents, the physical documents? Maybe I don't know the system in Spain still, but I don't know how it could work. I cannot imagine that, yeah?
No, I mean, obviously, it's a funnel, right? So we get a lot of leads. We have less customers. We have less non-performing loans, and we have less car recoveries. So the important part of the business where you don't want to have any logistics is in the open end of the funnel, the wide end, which is the marketing, the call center. And if you look at the end of the funnel, the people who don't pay, the non-performing loans, you know, the people who don't want to cooperate, don't want to pay and keep the car because they think, you know, they're going to be very clever and have a double profit. Those involve logistics. So we have a contract. We have an option to buy the car if they don't pay. The value of the car is the money that they owe us. But we have logistics there, so we have to go out. We either have to use the legal system if we have to, but we try to avoid that as much as possible. We try to resolve it ourselves because it's faster. So we have a team of people who are out actually looking for cars. And then when we auction
they try to find it on the street and then...
Well, depending on the situation, whether it's in a private property or on the street, or so, you know, depending on every situation is different. But we don't auction the car until we have it in our possession. So it's physically,
you physically have to get the car.
Yeah,
the documents you have digital, if I understand right. Yeah. So, but you need the physical car
to sell it.
To sell it, and use it as a pledge.
So there is logistics, but not right at the back end. So with a small
very minority. Yeah. But still, for me, it's interesting to understand it. So first, we are now at the end of it, of the defaulted loans, and then at the end. First, you try to solve it somehow with the customer, find a way to manage it.
80% of non-performing loans are resolved.
Okay, and one option would be for the borrower to sell the car, or how do I understand it? To sell the car and use the money to pay back the loan, or
well, if he is in default, if he has not paid
exactly.
2
Let's say
installments,
it's a defaulted
then
loan,
he can't
and
sell.
now
He can't sell the car because it already belongs to us.
okay, so you offer them to sell the car. First of all, you just send them like, okay, you didn't pay, it's defaulted. We own the car.
Well,
so
first we try and find a solution. We
Yeah.
don't want cars. We don't want logistics. We want loans. We're a lending company.
Yeah.
So we try and find a solution. 80% of cases we find a solution.
the solution could be. I'm just curious because I'm interested in the business
Solution
case.
could be we restructure the loan.
Okay.
We lengthen the loan. We make the installments lower.
Yeah.
Solution could be you give me the car, I auction it, and I take what you owe me and I pay back the rest. We always pay back the rest.
Yes.
Well, those are or a solution could be that somehow you realize that you've made a mistake and you find some way of paying the loan in one payment. People. You have two kinds of people, non-performers, right? You have the people who are really genuinely in a distressed situation and they can't make the payment. And usually you find a solution for those.
Yeah.
And then you have a small number of those who are intentionally trying to keep the car and the money. That's more difficult, right? Then you have to use the legal system or whatever. But
So that's
I mean,
the
we're
last
talking
minority. Yeah.
but
It's just because interesting, you know.
We're talking. I mean, 20. So we're talking about 20% of the non-performers end up in that situation. So we're talking 1% of the loan book that
Sure.
gets
It's
to that
absolute
level of complexity.
minority, but exciting for me to understand it. You know, it's just this is the exciting part. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
But
the
these are the
business,
ones we don't want to have those problems.
Of course, you don't want to
Yeah.
have them. Yeah, but
Yeah.
so at the end, it could also happen that somebody is looking for the car, towing it and putting it on auction.
It can happen. Sometimes, I mean, we don't want to be running around. We have like 6,000 customers at the moment, right? We don't want to be looking for the 1%.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times the car ends up. Sometimes it takes us a week because there's just an agreement, and sometimes it takes 2 years because the car is parked on private property and you can't recover it. And then the police end up, picking it up one day because it's not insured or because they haven't paid the car park, and then it gets towed away by the town hall, and then the town hall phones us 2 years later and says, hey, we have a car here.
Because you are the legal owner.
Because at that point we're already the legal owner. It's a car pending recovery. So we have loans on the balance sheet, and we have cars pending recovery. So those are no longer loans. The loan has been cancelled. We own the car. When we recover the car, we auction the car. We get the money back. We pay ourselves, and then anything that's left, we pay to the borrower.
So. Last question to the topic, because otherwise I think it's too long, because not everybody might be that
Yeah,
curious.
we're dealing with a very small number of cases.
Yeah, exactly. But to understand it, you can put it on auction. You have the digital documents, and so the person who buys it at the auction will be the new legal owner without any problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but to summarize it, and I think this is the more important consequence of this exchange. For us as a private investor, when we invest in the Ibancar loans, we can feel pretty safe about it. Of course, everybody has to make his own decision. Yeah,
well, I mean, if you compare it to someone who is offering unsecured loans, like a payday lender or an installment lender, if their customer does not pay, the legal system is not really going to help you recover 300 euros or 500 euros because the cost of the lawyers and everything is already more than the amount they owe you. So they just forget about that. They have to write that off, that 300 or the 500 euros. And how do they write that off? They have to write that off with their own equity, their own profits, their own capital.
Exactly.
We don't have that issue because we recover the asset, we auction it. So the money is coming back. We're not funding the cost of credit losses. So that makes us a much stronger business because we have the collateral.
Exactly, because if we are talking about this kind of investments, P2P loans, from my perspective as a private investor through a P2P platform, I think there are of course a chain of risks, but we could mention maybe two main risks. The one risk is of course the buyback is only as good as the loan originator. Yeah?
Exactly.
So this is exactly what we want to point out, I think, in this exchange. Yeah? Because you buy back, if it works properly, which is 99.9% the case, after 16 days.
Yep.
And this is a very nice investment scenario for us. Why? Because I have 12.5% interest return right now on Euro in your loans. Yeah, you buy them back after the 16 days. Yeah, if something goes wrong, so it's a nice investment scenario, and I have a return of more than 12% per year. And this since a long time already, because now
6 years.
time passes by, and we are still sitting here, and everything is working fine. So this is the one thing I want to point out on that perspective. And the other risk is the P2P platform. We already learned that in the track history, because we have a good connection and everything is working fine at Ibancar, but it doesn't help if the P2P platform has a problem. But before we proceed to the not so popular topics like GRUPEER and VIVENTOR, maybe I would like to ask you, which P2P platforms do you currently use to publish Ibancar loans? So which can we use to invest as a private investor, and what can we expect in that matter maybe?
So at the moment, just two, just Juvo and BONDSTER. We have used in the past some of the other ones that are no longer around, but the ones that seem to be working at the moment are Juvo and BONDSTER. We are in due diligence with three more, one in the US, one in Singapore, and another one in Europe. But I mean, I shouldn't mention those until we've completed our mutual due diligence. But there will be more platforms and more volume, more loans as well.
Yeah, we all learned obviously a lot about the history of the P2P platforms, also from your perspective, from our perspective as private investors. So you also are doing a due diligence on the P2P platform, as I understand it. Meanwhile, maybe even more in detail, because we just had this issue.
We don't want to be associated with a platform that's going to fail.
Of course.
And we saw that in GRUPEER, it causes a lot of trouble.
Very much from the investor's perspective, that you also take care on that for us, some kind of, as investors. But maybe as we are already talking about this topic, I would like to ask you about GRUPEER. There is still ongoing police investigation and all that. I don't want to comment too much about that, but there is one question I would like to address to you. For example, I invested on GRUPEER in Ibancar loans. The money, you still have it safe on a bank account. The part that is your working capital, or has been your working capital.
Well, for us on our balance sheet, it's debt. So it's a very senior liability. It stays on our balance sheet, and the money is there. The main problem with the platforms is that the investors belong to the platform. So I know that you invested in Ibancar loans on GRUPEER because you told me. But if I ask GRUPEER, you're just a number.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. So there's no way that we can go back to these investors because they're anonymous, and I think that's one of the problems, or that's the consequence of investing through a platform which is not working on a solid basis, and a lot of these platforms are not profitable, so they need to raise money again and again and again, and if one day they can't raise money, they disappear. And if they're regulated, which is now increasingly the case, then they've posted, the money's in segregated accounts, and a regulator or an administrator can come in and liquidate. But that wasn't the case with GRUPEER. Well, it wasn't the case with any of them until recently.
Yeah. Of course, it's a big topic, and I don't want to talk too long about this issue because it's not your issue; it's a different thing. But still, just to figure it out, is there any contact from your side that is not confidential? Maybe, of course, otherwise you will not talk in the camera anyway right now. Any contact to GRUPEER? Can we expect any? Can you give us any information about the ongoing?
I don't know much more than the market knows. In actual fact, we probably know less. We get inquiries from investors, to which with whom we engage, and we can confirm or deny rumors. We have had certain emails from third parties or lawyers proposing certain solutions. which we haven't felt entirely comfortable with because they haven't come from an administrator or a judge or someone independent. And until there is an independent administrator or a court, we won't send that money to anyone. So it's stuck until someone with some power and legally appointed decides to sort it out.
Maybe also my comment on that conclusion that I think I absolutely agree on your way to handle it, because otherwise the money will be gone and neither you have it nor we investors might have it.
You could end up paying it twice, right? If you say, some GRUPEER version 6 appears and you give them the money and it doesn't get paid back to the investors, and then later an administrator pops up and says, hey, can you send me this money?
Exactly. So I think it's good to wait until we can be in some way really sure that the money arrives at the investors at the end.
I mean, in the case of Ibancar, I think it's a small number, right? I think it's less than 100,000 euros. It's not a big number.
Still part of it is mine.
Yeah.
No, it's also from my perspective. Happily.
No, what I mean is in proportion to our balance sheet size and in proportion to our equity, it's not a number which is going to have, which is at any risk here.
Then the other platform that's not so popular, VIVENTOR. I haven't heard anything from them. Do you have any information about what's going on there? About you don't pay back anymore, I think, or you make
everything was paid, so we stopped.
No.
There's nothing outstanding with VIVENTOR. It wasn't working very well.
Okay.
So we stopped posting loans and we kept making payments until it was at zero. So we have no outstanding business with VIVENTOR or VIVENTOR investors.
So you're out of that. It's not your business.
Well, we learned a lesson the first time round. Be very careful which platforms to do business with. But there's also no news as far as I'm aware.
Okay, great. So thank you for this update from your side regarding that. And maybe let's proceed to the next question. Yeah, you told me you are now using BONDSTER and Juvo. I've been last week talking with Pavel Klemmer, the CEO of BONDSTER. I see that you are not really publishing a lot of loans on BONDSTER currently, which I'm a bit sorry about that, because as you know, my other residence is close to the office of BONDSTER, and I always like to be in personal contact with the people behind and understand the business and so on. This is not so easy for me at Juvo because they are in Bulgaria, in Sofia, so it's would be far to go there. Can we expect more loans on BONDSTER, or what should BONDSTER do to be more attractive for you as a P2P platform?
To be honest, I mean, we have limited volume. I mean, we originate at the moment about 1.5 million per month. So we refinance maybe 1.2 million per month. Juvo seems to work very well. I think we fund 800 or 900,000 a month. So then, because that works very well and very efficiently, the loans sell very quickly. Then we go to the next platform with what's left. And at the moment that's BONDSTER. So there's not a lot left for us to send to BONDSTER to start with. But we're expecting to grow. So we expect origination in Spain to go from 1.5 million to probably 2.5 million next year. And then we will use the platforms where the loans sell the fastest. So there could be more on BONDSTER, but there could be more on other platforms which we're performing due diligence on at the moment. So we're talking to a platform in the United States, one in the Far East, and another one in Europe. So as we grow, I mean, we just go where it's sufficient and where there's demand.
Makes absolute sense. As we are talking now about growing, maybe we move to the next topic. Or maybe first one more question to understand, because I want to dive into it. 1.5 million is the volume currently
per month.
Per month loans you are funding, and you are doing this mainly with P2P. Or is there any other funding?
No, at the moment 50% of the funding is P2P and 50% is through from professional investors, so from professional funds.
I just wanted to make it clear in the interview as well.
And then, I mean, we need to diversify funding, right? It's a good idea for us to have several funding channels because, well, as we know, they can disappear very quickly.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, but now let's move to this topic of expanding, which is very exciting for me as well, because somehow I really feel connected to Ibancar meanwhile, yeah. Ibancar, you say Ibancar or Ibancar?
Depends which language you're speaking. In Spanish, Ibancar.
Okay, this is why I'm always confused because some of your teams say Ibancar, some say Ibancar, and then I thought maybe I'm stupid. I don't know. Yeah, okay.
We got the name from. We got the name. The root of the name is the IBAN in the bank account, international bank account number. So it is
IBAN and the
IBAN
car.
And car.
Yeah, I expected it. So if we are talking English, maybe I should say Ibancar. However, okay, but expanding the company, yeah. You're now moving to Mexico with the company. Any news about that? What can we expect in that matter?
Well, we've been working on that for 2 years. The first year was market research, business planning, legal model analysis, and now we're ready. So we have a team. We have 6 people. The first 6 people on the payroll. There's one person adding to the team every month. We've been adapting the platform, so we own our software. We've built the platform. It needs to be adapted for Mexico. The language is a little bit different. The law is a little bit different. But we should be ready to issue the first loans, I think, early October. So yeah, exciting. Big market, 130 million people.
Will there be an office as well in Mexico for the customers? Where they can go, or is everything on the online?
No, everything is digital. This is
completely digital. If somebody has like a complaint or something, he can only contact you online in Mexico.
Yeah, I mean it depends what the complaint is, but same in Spain or anywhere. If a borrower has a complaint about us, there are independent authorities or regulators or ombudsmen who handle consumer protection issues. But if you want to contact us, it's phone, email, WhatsApp increasingly. But no, it's not our intention to have physical locations. Yeah,
but for example, in Spain, just curious, I'm asking questions I'm just curious about. Yeah, are there sometimes clients knocking on your door here?
Sometimes, yeah.
It might happen.
It happens.
Sometimes also investors, I know, but I feel very welcome. So thank you for that.
We had a P2P investor knock on the door last week. He said, "I'm on holiday in Malaga. I wanted to see if you were real." So
cool, but it's cool, yeah.
Yeah.
And you are okay with that?
Yeah, I mean,
if it's not too many.
Yeah, we don't have people to take to receive customers or investors here, so it's better to do so by appointment, but
of course.
But no, this is a digital business. It's an online business, and it has to stay. That's the only way you can scale a business in today's world, a lending business anyway.
I understand, and as it is very digital, I also saw when we made the office tour right now that also a part of your team here is already working for Mexico, so partly will also be managed from the office here.
So, I mean, Mexico is starting, so we do depend heavily on the team here in Malaga. I mean, our IT team, 90% of the IT team is here. We have 2 people working on IT in Mexico, but that balance will change as Mexico grows, because the time zone is, I mean, there's 8 hours difference. So as Mexico grows, we will have more resources in Mexico. But at the moment, things like risk management, IT, finance is more here, and then as we grow, it'll shift, and then we'll have two teams. And I think within 2 years, the Mexican business will be bigger than the Spanish business. It's a much bigger market. Here in Spain, you have 46 million people, and the number of people who may use this kind of loan is a couple of million. In Mexico, you have 130 million people, and you may have 40 million people who want credit. So yeah, it's a much bigger market.
It's impressive to hear these figures from you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. So as I understand it, but still the headquarter, at least currently, is in Malaga and should stay in Malaga. The headquarter.
No, the headquarters.
Is it like a headquarter here, or is it?
Well, this is the basis of the operating business. But the headquarters, the owner of the business, and is in London. So
Okay.
we have a financial holding company in the UK, an operating business in Spain, which is 90% of the business today, and an operating business in Mexico, which will grow, and then. Maybe we will have an operating business in the UK, or maybe Colombia, or maybe even in the Far East. So it'll keep growing in that way. But yeah, I mean, we have 42 people in Malaga, and a lot of the work that's being done for Mexico. Maybe we have 6 people in Mexico now, so still a lot of work being done here.
But however, we can expect an office in Malaga for the next.
Oh yeah, well, we have an operating
for the
business
future.
here. We have 6,000 clients, customers.
Yeah.
So.
And also this led me already, and you helped me already to the next question. Yeah, I wanted to ask about the structure and the ownership. I'm always curious because this is at the end also very important for the buyback and for everything, for the sustainability of the company. Who is the owner of Ibancar currently? What is the structure?
So
who are the shareholders, the main shareholders maybe?
Ibancar Spain is owned by a company called Iban Capital in the UK. Mexico is also owned by Iban Capital in the UK. And that company has several investors. So my family owns a majority of that business, but we also have venture capital investors and some high net worth investors in that company.
I see, and this leads me to the next question. Is it possible maybe one day that we small private investors have an opportunity to invest in Ibancar as equity, so in shares of Ibancar?
Yeah, so we've
crowdfunding or something like that?
The advantage of being a profitable business is we generate our own equity. So we haven't needed to raise a lot of money. We raised equity, so we raised debt continuously, obviously, which is 80% of our balance sheet. And the other 15-20% is equity, which we generate ourselves, a lot of it. We've only raised equity once in 2020, a small amount, 1.7 million. And so we've grown to where we are today with that. But we will be raising equity again Q3 or Q4 to scale Spain more, to scale Mexico, and potentially launch new products. And we will reserve an amount of that equity raise for the the P2P crowd or the crowd lending investors. But I think the minimum investment will be higher than on the loans.
Obviously, otherwise it would probably not make sense. But what approximately can we expect? Because I'm interested.
We're still talking how much to allocate to that, but I would expect the minimum to be at least 5,000, maybe 7,000.
Okay,
the minimum
that's
ticket.
good. That's what I expected somehow. Yeah. Okay, and will this be through one of the popular crowdfunding platforms, or how can we expect the handling of this investment?
So it will be through one of the well-known platforms. We're still talking about which one, and it will be through a special purpose vehicle where everyone will be. So all the crowd will be in one legal entity, which will then be a shareholder of Iban Capital, and it will be done on one of these platforms that specializes in crowdfunding. Okay,
very, very exciting. Then, as we are now moving to equity versus obligations, now we are in P2P is like an obligation, fixed income. But I would be excited to hear your thoughts about general investing on the stock market and in P2P. What's your opinion in general on that?
Comparing the two?
Comparing the two, yeah. And or would you say, okay, both, and if you have the asset allocation like 50-50 or like 90% stock market, 10% P2P, just I'm just curious what
No, I mean they're definitely not alternatives to each other, and I think I wouldn't even. I mean, I'm not an investment advisor, but
of course it's
I
just
wouldn't
exchange between us.
I think P2P should be a small part of your investment portfolio, because I think it's very risky. I think the platforms, you have to choose the platform very carefully, and then you have to choose the originator very carefully. It's very hard to make those choices because there's not always a lot of information available about the platform or about the originator, because they're private companies, they're not public companies. Equity, I mean, the returns can be super volatile, but the outcome is generally not binary. Whereas a P2P debt investment can be very binary, right? It either pays or it can go to zero.
Absolutely, yeah.
So no, I think the answer to that is they're not alternatives, and I wouldn't invest in equities and P2P. I would invest in different types of equities and different types of debt, and I would definitely not put 50% of my money in P2P if I had any money to invest, because, well, my money is all here.
For me, it's always exciting to exchange about the topic of portfolio asset allocation with other people, especially if they are like you, some kind of mentor for me, to be honest. Yeah. So I would like to ask you as well, how do you invest your own money?
I don't have any. This is it. We're trying to make money by building this business. So I'm not an investor. Well, I'm an investor in this business.
So everything goes to Ibancar.
We've reinvested everything we've made into this business. We're all in, as we say.
So you are very convinced of your own business. We can make as a conclusion by that.
More convinced every day, because every day, well, the early days were risky, and you didn't know how it was going to go, which mistakes you were going to make. And now a lot of the problems have been solved. A lot of the risk is being managed professionally and efficiently. So yeah, I think we're at this point we can say we're pretty much de-risked and very confident. But then you want to launch a new country, and then you want to launch a new product. So it keeps you awake, it keeps you busy, keeps you focused.
Okay, but still this makes me feel better about my investment in the Ibancar loans so far, because you have been talking about the risks, and maybe I want to make a conclusion all that right now. Yeah. I think the problem is, especially if people invest in something they don't know, if you make your own research, due diligence, visit maybe the platforms yourself, get your own impression, of course, always a risk, but it's your decision as investor. But if you make at least some research, it might be different. And also if you make a research on the loan originators, because there are some very transparent, like you, where you can go, you meet the team, you know everything, you see everything, and there are some you don't know anything, and still invest in it. And I think this is a difference, a huge difference, as we saw it also in the track history of the last years. Okay, maybe some last questions for this interview. First of all, how do you see the future of consumer lending in Spain, in Mexico, and maybe also in general? Other markets you want to expand?
Consumer lending, that's a tough one. I mean, there are a lot of views. My view is possibly that consumer lending is going to be decreasingly done by banks and increasingly done by new alternative specialized lenders. Banks are going to be more B2B, and you're going to have businesses like Ibancar who are going to occupy the B2C space. I think increasingly you're going to see loans as not being although they will be the core intention, they won't be the core product. Loans will be bundled with other services so that you can create a long-term relationship with your customer, which goes beyond money. And I think all that will be very much dependent on technology. But I don't think technology has solved the problem of access to credit, because we're now using algorithms and machine learning to decide who are the good borrowers and who are the bad borrowers, and the percentage of good borrowers to bad borrowers is not even. So these algorithms are excluding a lot of people from the market. So I think technology has a role to play in, for example, what we're doing, being able to lend to people who otherwise would not get a loan, or an algorithm would turn them down because they're too high risk. But because we have the collateral,
you can do it.
We have credit enhancement, the probability of loss goes from 60% to 4%. So we're very comfortable with those people. But automating asset-based lending, digitizing it is difficult, because you want it to be remote and scalable. You don't want to visit every car.
Of course.
You don't want everyone walking into your office to collect the money.
Yeah.
So I think asset-based lending, which is something which is very old, right? That's where banking comes from pawn shops and collateral, will have a big revival because it's now possible to digitize it.
Okay, so if I understand, this is also interesting information. Mainly your customers, your clients are people that would not get a loan at the common bank. Yeah?
Well, I think.
But it's maybe also because of a better service that people come to Ibancar?
So we're fast. We're very fast. So I think we have very high quality customers who can get other loans. But in order to get that loan, they have to go to their bank branch and sit down and have a conversation with someone, and it takes a week, and they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the banks are very bad at servicing customers, very, very bad, increasingly bad. So those people come to us because they can get a loan in 2 hours.
Yeah. So it's also maybe the better service you offer.
Yeah, much better digital
Why
service.
people might decide
we will lend to someone in 2 hours, to someone we don't know in 2 hours. Your bank knows you and won't lend to you in a week.
Exactly.
So that's a mistake, an opportunity that the banks are leaving behind. So that's a big chunk of our business, just speed, efficiency, and you can pay it back next week if you want. And the other is people who are using very high costs short-term credit. I mean, they are increasingly aware that we are an alternative, because I don't think people who use payday loans for 300 or 500 euros are solving their problem. I don't think 300 euros really solves your problem. A lot of people need bigger loans with more regular installment payments. So yeah, I mean, we have the full range, but I think the key is that using collateral means that everyone has become creditworthy, or many more people are creditworthy because there's collateral, like a mortgage.
So you're offering obviously an interesting alternative service as well for the clients. Can we expect that you expand in more countries?
Yes, but not at a pace, not at a crazy pace, a careful pace. I mean, we took 2 years to think about Mexico and how to do that.
So what might be next?
I mean, car title lending or logbook lending or car equity loans exists everywhere, from the United States to China, South Africa, even Germany. But nobody's digitized it. So you have to go with your car to a workshop, someone inspects it. Sometimes they want you to park the car there, leave it there. They give you a loan for 1 month, you have to renew it so it's not a product that is a loan product that has been efficiently digitized. So before we make decisions on which markets to go to, we look at obviously the size of the market, the potential market, the competition in that market, and then you look at the regulation. Do you need a banking license? What are the consumer protection laws? Can you comply with, as a small business, can you comply with all these requirements without spending millions to enter that market? So Mexico fits that bill. I think the UK fits that bill. Okay. Some countries in the Far East fit that bill. Some more countries in Latin America. But I would generally not expect to see Ibancar in Europe. Benelux, Scandinavia is pretty much unattractive for a business with our resources.
Okay, I understand. And just talking about consumer lending, really in general, the demand will always continue. You believe that people need to lend money or want to lend money?
Well, and until we have universal income for everyone, I think there's always going to be much more demand than supply.
Okay, then maybe a last personal question. You live right now in Mexico. We are just lucky that you came here for a few days, and I by chance met you in the office right now. Of course, we made an appointment, but it was by chance that it fitted optimize in this time frame. How is it to live in Mexico for you and for your family?
Well, I mean, I'm more or less based out of my suitcase at the moment, so we're traveling a bit too much. So when we decided that we were going to try and launch the business in Mexico, that it would be good to be there. So we've been there for a year. We now have a senior team with some very experienced bankers. The business will launch in October, probably lending, and then the team will grow. So hopefully within the next few months, my job, or most of my job in Mexico, will be done.
Okay.
But it's been a very good experience. It's an amazing country, amazing culture, amazing food.
You live in Mexico City.
So we've been based, the office is in Mexico City, and we've been based there. It's been a very positive experience. But I mean, we'll be back in Europe.
But for your family, how was it? It's not about not anymore about Ibancar. To be honest, I really, if it's too much about your privacy, I don't want to.
No. It's been challenging, I think, difficult in the beginning because it's quite a big change. But it's been a very positive experience. You have to make adjustments because it's a very different country. Security issues are, important. But it's been a very positive experience. But I mean, it's not home. It's a job. We're going to do the job. We do the job in the best way we can, in the best environment we can, and I think we've been happy. And the business will keep us moving. Maybe the UK, maybe Spain. So our life as a family is more or less defined by the investors, the shareholders, is what we agree with them, where we go, what's the best thing to do, and we'll keep rolling. Pack the bags.
Therefore, I think you have children.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's their age, may I ask?
Oh, young.
So they are in school already?
Yeah.
So they always have to adapt to a new class and new making new friends and
I mean, I think children are more fearful of change, but and adults think it's going to be easy, but then I think the children find it in practice much easier than they expect, and the adults find it much harder than they expect.
I think so too, yeah. So it's also a great experience and then a chance for them, I think, to learn for life. Yeah.
It opens the mind. I think it's good to have these experiences, but it has to be well managed, and you can't move around too much. So children at some when they reach teenage years, I think they need perhaps more stability.
Okay, great. So with these wise words, I would end this interview, I think, and looking forward about further exchange in the comments. So we also understand it's good to move and experience different countries and cultures in your life. And also exciting. Thank you very much for your time and the hospitality. With your team, I will now do an office tour. Yeah. Record an office tour. We already did one, but we don't have it on camera. Okay. It was very exciting. And we have to finish right now because you told me at 12:30 you have to move to the next appointment in Marbella. So 5 minutes for that. And thank you.
Thanks for coming to see us. And let's by all means, have a look around the office, and I'm sure they will take good care of you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hope to see you soon, and maybe you move back to Spain. We hope so.
It's possible, yeah. Who knows?
Okay, great. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.